So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, is making a clear call yet again to pack the courts and expand the courts following Amy Coney Barrett being officially added and confirmed to the Supreme Court. Trump's pick, ACB, she was confirmed, just a couple hours ago, really, onto the court. And AOC was one of the first people to respond by saying, and I'm going to read you the tweets, expand the court. Republicans do this because they don't believe Dems have the stones to play hardball like they do. And for a long time, they've been correct. But do not let them bully the public into thinking their bulldozing is normal, but a response isn't. There is a legal process for expansion. And she is 100% correct there. She's 100% correct to call out the Democratic Party's recent and historical failures to actually fight back, to get in the mud once in a while and win something for the people that vote for them and depend upon them. She's right about that whether it's Pelosi or Schumer or so many others, they failed now and in recent history to actually get something done because they're too worried about looking hypocritical, or they're too worried about looking uncivilized or unprofessional or uncollegial. And Republicans don't give a damn about those things, at least not all of them or most of them most of the time. They just don't. They realize that their voters don't care about hypocrisy as long as they're winning. And a lot of moderates, maybe they care, but they don't care enough to be mad about it 3, 4, 5 months later, or in some cases 3, 4, 5 weeks later. They just don't care. Republicans win and then they deal with the dust up later. Democrats worry and they lose and they don't benefit from looking civil in the first place. They don't. And so AOC is right to call that out. And I'm hopeful. I'm not necessarily optimistic, but I have a smidgen of hope that the growing prominence of people like AOC and others will bring some of those metaphorical stones to the fight to actually get in the mud for the people that depend on you and win something. Even if it's icky, even if it looks hypocritical, or even if it goes against convention, my goodness, she is willing potentially to get in the fight and be a dog in that fight. And I hope that people stand with her. And she's 100% correct again that there is nothing constitutional or moral stopping the Democrats from expanding the court. Look, the Republican argument here about Amy Coney Barrett was that, there's no such thing as hypocrisy or feelings or last wishes in the Constitution. That, Ruth Bader Ginsburg said she didn't want to be replaced before November. And, a lot of people are saying we're hypocrites for the Merrick Garland move, but none of that's in the Constitution. We have the right in the Constitution to have a president nominate someone for the court, and then the Senate has the right to accept or reject that person through an up and down vote in the Senate. And if the Senate votes for that person, they go on the Supreme Court. That's how it's done. The rules are clear in the Constitution. So what they've basically said is, morals and hypocrisy aside, we had the right to do this and we exercised our right. And they are correct. And what they're banking on is the Democrats will acknowledge that. They'll huff and puff, but they'll ultimately acknowledge that. But the Democrats won't use their own stones or develop stones and use them to go forward and say, look, the Constitution doesn't say one single damn thing about how many people need to be on the court. And the court has grown over time. It shrank over time. It's been 6 people. It's been 10 people. It's been 9. It's been 8. It's been all sorts of numbers. And there's no reason it can't be any bigger. And there's lots of reasons you might argue beyond constitutionalism why it should be bigger, even beyond rectifying Trump's crony picks. For instance, the number of circuit appeals courts. It used to be the case that the rough convention was the number of justices corresponded to the number of circuit appeals courts. There was nine justices, but now there are 13 circuits. So maybe you could make the argument that there would be 13 Supreme Court justices. The country is significantly larger and more complex and more diverse, not only in terms of its people, but its industries and its technologies and its global positions and everything, that maybe 9 justices isn't enough to reflect all the complex, educational and diversity and perspective needs to render the most important permanent or quasi-permanent decisions on key issues. 9 might not be enough anymore, ideology aside. And so what AOC is really laying out is the program to fight, 100%. Now, Democrats need to actually hold themselves accountable here. I'm seeing a lot of neoliberal type Democrats, the sort of people that didn't back Bernie in the primary, that didn't even back a quasi-progressive like Liz Warren, being really mad at the Republicans and demanding that a move be made to actually pack the courts and do something big. And those people need to stand up, 100%. You need to stand up and demand from your corporate Dems actual action here. Joe Biden, with his bipartisan committee to explore things, is a recipe to punt the issue because Republicans will poison that committee. Joe Biden, once he gets elected, needs to confirm a position immediately in favor of expanding the Supreme Court and, frankly, expanding circuit appeals courts all over the country. 100%. They need to make that move. They need to actually go forward and make the moves they have the power to do so. And the Republicans can say, oh, the convention, the hypocrisy, the danger to democracy. And you can say the Constitution doesn't prohibit it. We have the right through legislation to expand the courts. That's our right to do it, and we've exercised our right. You threw out convention and you threw out consistency with Coney Barrett versus Merrick Garland. We're responding in kind. We're fighting for our voters and for the needs of the American people. I'm not convinced Pelosi, Schumer, Biden, even if they do win all three, houses, all three branches, will actually have the will or the ability to lead that fight. I'm not convinced. But I know that with people like AOC pushing them, there's as good a chance as there's ever been that could possibly happen.